is the CEO and founder of Databox, and you are also the former VP of Sales at HubSpot. And we have a little bit of banter back and forth on LinkedIn. So I was very excited to have you on, and very excited to chat a little bit about Databox. Excited to chat about LinkedIn and what's to come in the SEO space. So thank you so much, Peter, for being on.
Yep. Oh, thanks for having me, Jordan. I enjoy our banter as well. So it's nice to have people that you connect with on LinkedIn and then have
And I
like
appreciate it too from
ongoing
your end, because
conversations you get to learn
I'm
about
starting
them
to see
and
more
vice versa.
CEOs
So I
also
appreciate the way you use
come on to LinkedIn and start posting and start advocating a little bit more on LinkedIn. And the first question
it.
is a little bit, I guess, maybe self-serving from my
Hmm.
perspective of posting on LinkedIn, but even before we jump onto the LinkedIn stuff, because I've seen a few of your podcasts and a few of your lives, but I don't know exactly the story of how you started, because you were in engineering first, then you went to VP of Sales in HubSpot, and then you started your own company. So do you mind like giving a little bit of background about that? No worries.
Yeah. Oh, sure. I'll try to do the short version, so
Oh,
it's not a half hour long, but because I'm kind of old, if you can't tell. But I'll be 49 next month, so got a few years under me. I studied chemical engineering. Was always into math and science. Fairly well rounded education wise, but was pushed kind of to do the engineering thing because it was lucrative. Realized that I don't love being like a hardcore engineer. I like the social aspect of management and sales and all that other stuff. Much more extroverted than introverted, and so after a few years out of school, when I did engineering, I actually got to be a sales engineer at that company where I would fly out to manufacturing sites, our customers at the time, and work with the salespeople, go into the accounts, actually help configure our product on their machines and help them test it, prove that our product was either more effective or more cost effective. And so I just really enjoyed that. So nights and weekends, I decided, I'm going to start planning events because I was, I basically didn't get enough social stimulation at work, and I started doing it for profit, not a lot of profit, but for something. And then, real as the internet was taking off, so early 2000s, realized that like, I can organize and promote events much more effectively online. And so I grabbed a few buddies, and we started coding. I went back to school before that and had learned how to code. And so we built an app. We were early 20s, mid 20s, didn't really know anything. We were all engineers, so we had like no idea how to build a business. Um, and ended up doing that for a few years. Got it to the point where I was making a living from it, but it wasn't going anywhere. And that's when I met my sales coach. His name was Rick Roberge, and I hired him to help me sell more effectively in our startup. But his son ended up being the VP of sales and one of the first few employees at HubSpot. And he was my age, Mark Roberge. And so Rick connected the two of us just from a networking perspective. I actually helped give some feedback even before I joined HubSpot when they were just at the idea phase. Helped them get their first few customers. I referred a bunch of customers over to them. And then about a year later, as Mark was, they raised a Series A, and Mark started to build a sales team. He called me up and said, "Hey, would you be interested?" And I said, "No, I have a startup. I'm doing fine." But then he persisted, and also our startup, my partners were like tired. We were working our butts off and not getting very far. So I ended up joining HubSpot as the fourth sales rep there. About a year or two into it, I realized that I could get marketing agencies to resell HubSpot just in my role as a salesperson. So I started doing that, and a long story short, I started generating significantly more sales than even the top reps at HubSpot. So like I was 2 or 3x the productivity of the next sales reps. And so at that point, I had pitched actually to start the program. They told me no a few times, but once I got to 3x the productivity of a sales rep, they said, "Hey, maybe there's something here." So they let me start a program. I hired a marketer, hired 2 salespeople, and that was my introduction to management. But then at HubSpot, I took the channel sales from zero to a few $100 million in annual revenue, and by that point, had a few hundred people in my organization, and so got quite an education there working at HubSpot. From really early on to past the IPO, and so wanted to do it again. I felt like, oh, my first startup failed, and I got a great education at HubSpot, and I felt comfortable or more confident in my ability to manage and lead. And so I ended up actually joining a startup that was kind of doing very, very little revenue, zero revenue, and they were in the middle of a pivot. But I really liked the team. I really liked what they were working on. And so I joined as CEO here at Databox, I guess 9 years ago now.
Mm.
And then we've been growing. We operate cash flow break even. We're about 10 million ARR at this point, so much smaller than HubSpot was or is. But legit business. There's not many companies that get to 10 million, especially SaaS companies that get there without any additional capital. They had raised some money.
Crazy.
Early
I mean,
on,
you summarized it
but we
pretty
haven't raised
concisely. I feel
since
like it's
the
not
last
your
9
first
years.
time
So
doing the
story.
summary, but no, but that's awesome. And
Yeah.
one of the things that caught my attention about you as a CEO, obviously, is because you're posting. You're one of the CEOs that I see like posting so much on LinkedIn, and considering the size of your company, making 10 million ARR, I'm like, a lot
Yeah.
of CEOs I don't see like prioritize LinkedIn. But what drew you into LinkedIn? Why did you start? Mm.
Yeah. I started. So I personally love writing. Uh, Even in my first startup, I had a blog that I would post to, and it would help me from SEO perspective. It helped me get my thoughts down, help me connect with customers, connect with other smart people to learn from. So I just have always written as a networking tool, really. Uh, and I hadn't written for a while. The year before I left HubSpot, I actually wrote, like, for all I did was write for a year for the sales blog. At the time, they were trying to grow their there was the CRM was new or trying to get established with amongst sales leaders. So that's what I did for a year. So I did a lot of writing, but then when I left and I joined Databox, I'm like, I don't have time for that anymore. I did a little bit of it until we hired a marketer. But then, so I was just tweeting. Tweeting was my outlet, but Twitter was like, I never really got like any business value out of it. I built my following there. I would get engagement, but it was really hard to leverage for the business. And so at the same time, I saw some other CEOs and companies doing really well with LinkedIn. So I'm like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to find time to like write longer form content, and I'm going to do it as consistently as I can. And I kind of got hooked because the feedback was so immediate. Like I had obviously had a following of people that I was connected to over the years, and they were engaged with my content, and I was able to
Mm.
meet new people, and it felt like the old days of blogging where it was all about networking and learning from each other. And so I kind of got hooked. I enjoy that stuff. I also, over time, iterated on my approach to the point where I was able to really pull people into the top of our marketing funnel and sometimes into our sales funnel. And so it became a lead gen source for us. At this point, about I think 7% of the signups we get on our website first heard about us on LinkedIn. So it's important to the business at this point. And I also think like it helps with other channels. Like I get to promote our YouTube channel. Like I have a newsletter that goes out. Like so, I think there's a lot of ways that LinkedIn helps with marketing in general. I also get a lot of feedback. I use it to get feedback. I share like our roadmap, what we're building, get feedback from people. So I think in addition to
Mm-hmm.
just like getting someone to click something and go sign up, I'm nurturing them really effectively on LinkedIn, which is unique to the channel. So, anyways, it's important to the business at this point, so that's why I do it. I now have a lot of help. We have a director of content marketing, Ali Orlando, who, um, has a team that does lots of primary research. We have a product marketing team that's constantly interviewing customers, and then we use AI to extract insights from all of the customer conversations that we have. So between all of those things, like they're identifying insights, identifying trends, literally collecting data in research surveys. And so I don't have to like sit down with a blank pen and paper. I literally at this point I literally log into Asana for a project that's built for me, and it has like a backlog of 20 drafted posts. And so I read through them. I edit them pretty heavily, but at this point it's pretty. I can probably spend about an hour a day editing and scheduling and to some
Were they
degree
pretty raw, the
commenting.
posts that
Sometimes
you
I
were
get sucked
creating
in
when
and
you
do
were
it maybe
starting
two
off,
hours in a
like
day,
before the
but
drafts was on were
but
Asana?
it's pretty efficient at this point. We've always had a marketing process where we run surveys to and get two things out of it. One, we
Mhm.
ask multiple choice questions so we can then create charts to say like 25% of companies are doing this, right? And then two, in that survey, we always ask open-ended questions where we'll ask like, what's one thing you did related to this topic that worked really well in the last 12 months? And so between those two things, I'm able to take the data and those quotes from those contributors and weave that into content.
Yeah.
So even before Ali took over, like we've been doing that for years, literally 7 or 8 years. So that always formed a basis for a lot of our content. We also have benchmarks in our product where people can compare their performance to peer groups, uh, and it shows like the performance, the median performance, as well as the distribution of that performance. So I can use that information. So I did a lot of those two things early on. So it wasn't just pen and paper. I do have my own like very strong feelings and opinions around specific topics related to sales and marketing and building SaaS companies, et cetera. So I do share that stuff. And sometimes I can just whip that out in 10 minutes because I've said it a million times before. But I still had primary research that I could work with. We've really expanded the primary research with Ali on board. We have more podcasts that I'll share insights from. We have again customer interviews that we do, that they prep for me and
Yeah.
share. So
Yeah,
there's a
and
there's a
you even
lot
find,
more
well,
now,
two
but
questions
I
from this.
always
Like,
had
one was
something to
if you
work
even
with. It
found that
wasn't
like
just me sitting down
when you
to
put
do
those
it.
stats like as the hook, that they get more impressions, and how important do you see the hook being when you're writing these LinkedIn posts?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's funny. The hook is really important, and stats do help. It's funny you bring it up because I haven't used like a stat from one of our research reports in a while as the hook, which reminds me maybe I should. Um, but some of my best performing posts start with some kind of stat. More recently, it's been like some result we've achieved as a company, um, than anything. But yes, but the hook is critical, and stats are helpful in hooks, for sure. I don't rely only on stats for hooks.
Mm-hmm.
I try to summarize my point in one sentence as
Mm-hmm.
the hook. I think more often than not, um, and almost relying on the topic to be resonant. Uh, I think there's certain topics that do well on LinkedIn, and then there's certain topics that do well for the people that follow me.
Yeah, yeah,
So I
and also dividing it, I
generally
guess,
stick to
into
those
certain buckets, I
as
guess.
recurring themes.
So, because I didn't see like too much personal posts being put up. I did see one of your son. A few. I think it was a few months ago that he was in a car detailing or car cleaning
Mhm.
business.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I don't do a lot of personal posts. I have a few like I've been formulating in my head that I might write around like my personal health journey, but I haven't done much. Yes, I wrote a post. My son, who's a senior in high school now, started a business 2 summers ago, like not this summer, but the summer before, doing car detailing, and he's been very successful with it. He's taken it very seriously, and without me like pushing or anything, or my wife pushing him. He's done very well with it. So I wrote that, and some of the lessons I kind of learned from him about business. So like kind of good reminders. Like he literally went door to door knocking on doors to get business. He got rejected a million times, but it didn't seem to phase him. And I think that's something that's rare for most humans, even most salespeople. And so it was just kind of amazing to me that as a 17-year-old, he just kind of had
Yeah,
no fear of
and speaking
rejection.
of
He
which
just
too,
knew
because
that if he wanted to get a new
I
customer and he
mean, we
didn't
were
have
talking
one that
about
day, he
the
should go
posts that
knock on
were
doors.
doing very well. Were post that kind of had some stats, had a really good hook too. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the other things is
Mm-hmm.
I think you had a post that also went like very viral, and your most viral post was when people would reply. Sometimes when you feel like you get a reply from like a chatbot, you feel like you should reply back with another chatbot. But that was your most viral post, right? From
Oh, that one. Yes. Oh, was it? That's funny. I That was like a Saturday morning rant. I think I don't even think I put any thought into that one. Oh yes, it was.
I don't
I
have it in
pissed
front of me,
off
but
salespeople,
it
or I
was
pissed
the
off.
Saturday morning
Maybe
post
I'm
that
confusing
you
it.
mentioned,
What's that one start
and I
with? Do
was
you have it
like,
in front of you?
it was wild that like it was just an off the
Okay.
cuff post that I
Yeah.
think that you mentioned called virality. Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
Well, I think I remember what it was. I think it was. I get so much spam in my email inbox that it like I can't manage my email inbox. And I know there's tools out there that I could use that would help, but like I get so much I can spend, and like some of them are convincing because they like mention the subject line says
mm,
Databox or references like they're misleading in a way, so you kind of have to open them to delete them, and
mm.
and so
Yeah.
I think the one you're talking about is I wrote something that I wanted to write a bot or create a bot that literally pretends to be interested in their product or service and goes back and forth with them just to freaking waste their time because they're wasting so much of my time. And I think what I did, I hit a nerve with salespeople who prospect, of course.
Mhm.
So they're like, "Oh, that's that's awful. That's rude. Don't your salespeople send emails? Like, there's or like I'm going to do this to your salespeople. Like people went all out on being mean about it. I really didn't have any intention of doing this. I don't want to spend my time on it, but like it was just it was a
And
Saturday
even before
morning
jumping
like
into
thought like
some context about
this is so
Databox,
annoying and this is what I'm
but
going to do. Yeah, yeah.
how important right now with AI coming in, do you think it is
Mm-hmm.
to be building these platforms on LinkedIn, and how important do you think like the human to human connection is still going to be with AI flourishing right now?
Yeah. Um, this is a complicated one. But I do think AI will somewhat devastate the job market over the next year or two for individuals in sales, customer success, et cetera, customer service. You're already seeing headlines on it from bigger companies that are pitching AI. But as a user of AI and based on bots that we've
Mm,
created internally, I can totally see the future of where bots will do much more of the selling process. And so I think the challenge for salespeople, account managers, anyone that's really customer facing one on one is they're going to have to learn how to create demand because I think the role will change
mm,
from what it is now, which is largely demand capture. Like they're converting demand that's already created, and they're going to have to help create demand. I think that's like the future of selling. It's kind of back to the original point. The original way salespeople is like their job was to find demand, and they would get help to actually close the sale. Um, and I think that's kind of the way that salespeople do will need to do to be relevant because I think bots will increasingly take the role of selling. So now I'm not saying sales jobs are going away. What I expect is that
mm,
the productivity of a sales rep will go up significantly as bots are used more in the sales process. Um, so so I think the last frontier for salespeople is building a following. And
mm,
one book that I
yeah.
recommend and often reference is Robert Cialdini's Influence at Work, where he talks about what it takes to be able to influence someone. And I don't remember the seven things he talks about. I don't remember off the top of my head. It's been a little while since I've read the book, but the principles I have like nailed and have implemented over my career. And one of the first principles is like you want to be known before you are in contact with someone. Reputation. So if you have a reputation of being helpful, of being a resource in as or an expert at something, then people will still want to work with you as a person. And I don't think that's going to be replaced by bots by itself. And so what I recommend for salespeople is to think a little bit more like marketers these days, but marketing their own expertise, building and marketing their own expertise. And so I think LinkedIn will be critical for that, or really, I don't know what the next generation of whatever social nets might be, but right now I think LinkedIn is a great place for sales professionals to build their following, establish their credibility, establish their expertise, connect with new people, learn from people, share those learnings, etc. I think it's a little bit of a like a feedback loop with the market. If a salesperson can establish that, I think their job will be
Yeah,
very
and I can
secure
imagine
as
you
AI
too that
starts
even
to
in
take
your
over
inbox,
more
you
of
probably
the
get like a bunch of
bottom of the funnel type sales
clearly AI or
activities.
templated messages trying to pitch you something or sell you something. And I don't know, like I wasn't very active during like
Oh yeah,
the
it's
dot
awful.
com boom or when
Yeah.
email first became a thing. But I'm assuming that that converted very well back then, as opposed to now.
Not in the dot com boom. It wasn't then. It was mid to late 2000s, early 2010s when email prospecting became a thing. A guy named Aaron Ross was at Salesforce and kind of pioneered it. And then he wrote a book on it called Predictable Revenue, and that became the like first Bible for all SaaS companies in the mid late
Mm,
2000s, early 2010s. And everybody copied that model. And it's literally like define your ICP, ideal client profile, build your lists, put them in your CRM, have humans sit there and type a sequence of emails to get them to raise their hand and book
yeah,
calls. And yes, it worked back then because no one else was doing it, and we all had manageable inboxes at that time, so it did work. Yeah, we did it at HubSpot. We I think we added the whole inbound element to it, so we at least got people like downloading an ebook that was relevant to what we sold. But then we would do the same thing.
yeah.
We'd follow
And during
up
that
very
time,
persistently
did you also
by
see
email
kind of
to
the
get people
pattern of
to book a call with
that
us or
people
consider
were
our product.
trying to develop some kind of demand generation, or that didn't happen until much more recent?
Demand generation back then was just SEO and ads. Like all we talked about is SEO and ads. Before social like got big, or even when social start. Let me say it this way: even when social started to get big and like those Facebook became a big company,
Mm,
etc. Social still wasn't a big driver. It was like a third like afterthought after SEO and paid ads, like Google search ads. Of course, Facebook then got big, and the other social nets came along and got big, and social became important. But but email prospecting was like the yin to the yang almost of that stuff, right? So email prospecting was initially was purely outbound, and then demand creation came along to do search and ads and right, and then it's like you're capturing that interested demand, or maybe you're creating a little bit of demand by educating the market, et cetera, through marketing efforts, and those kind of became like yin and yang. That's what the whole inbound versus outbound um, uh, controversy was like in the early 2010s. But
yeah,
those
yeah.
were
So now I think times
that
have
was a little
changed.
later than the
Times have
cold
changed significantly
prospecting. Cold
now.
prospecting by email was a little earlier. I feel so old
It's just
now,
more
giving you
wisdom. It's
history
just more
lessons.
wisdom about that. But
Um,
yeah, go for it.
but like interestingly though, and I know you have like things you want to get to, but like I actually think social is more important than those things now almost. Because you actually have more control over social if you do it well. And I don't advocate for like only jumping into social. I think what you really need is a marketing and sales process that spans all these channels. It starts with maybe with cold prospecting and outreach, but engages people or prospects through content marketing, maybe on social, maybe on your website, maybe on other channels, and then ads to follow up and retarget and expand the reach of that content, et cetera. But I think social like is the first
I
thing
want
that
to talk on
every
that
company
too.
should have a strategy for at this point, because search engine
Yeah,
optimization is
because
dead.
this
Like
actually goes to
you
the
can't
viral
you
post
can't
that
do educational content
you
anymore
had,
and expect to do
but
money.
just even
Yeah.
just
Go
right
ahead.
before that, I jump on that because I had and I still have a mentor. Like I
Mhm.
really respect him. He's
Yeah.
great. I think there's one point of a disagreement that we have, and I want your input as the tiebreaker. No,
Okay.
I mean, I won't even tell you who said.
The
Well,
feeling,
maybe I will.
the way you're teeing it up, I'm going to be in agreement with you, not him
But
at all.
but with him, basically
Yeah, we probably shouldn't call them out if
the
we're going to
idea
call
was
them wrong.
that he has like personal opinions over social, and he's like that it's difficult because these platforms at the end of the day, so like LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, in a way they kind of like own your audience, as opposed to like, let's say like tomorrow they shut down, then like your pipeline might be it might take some time to dry out. But
Oh
on
yeah,
the other hand, like if you capture the emails, if you capture the phone numbers, then you can just
totally.
like get your SDRs to start cold
Yeah.
calling, and technically like you own the data at this point. So
Hmm.
and he's like he's kind of like, don't waste too much time with social,
Yeah.
capture the audience. And
Right.
I'm kind of like, I don't know where to balance that out.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I think both are important. You got to convert the audience somehow, but there's no other way to get reach
Mm-hmm.
and resonance until you've built your own channels. Like I'm a big believer in owned marketing channels. Like websites important, email is important. We have a podcast. I wouldn't call YouTube your own channel, but it kind of is an owned channel. Like if they were to like, drastically change the way it worked, people would find an alternative. So I think you have to like build your followings and your subscription and all that. And yes, ultimately need to get it into your CRM, but you also don't have to wait for people. Like if you want to do cold
Mm-hmm.
outreach and focus on that, you don't have to wait for people to convert either. You can buy lists, you can build lists, you can scrape information about them. Like you can target and personalize messages. So there's like I wouldn't think of them as mutually exclusive. But like if you want to wake up in the morning and you have an idea or you want to get a campaign launched and you want to get it in front of people, like there's nothing that's better than social. And you'll get instant
Mm-hmm.
feedback. Like you don't get that really with your newsletter, not unless you have this amazing offer that gets people to convert right away. So I think for reach, for growing your reach and identifying what resonates, so you can't beat social. It's best until maybe you have an email
Both are
list
good.
of 100,000 raving fans.
Yeah.
That
So
yeah, yeah,
I mean
then
that was the point that
sure,
we
social
were
stuff.
at, and I think like you said, the foundation is it's good to have, and the outbound is good, and uh, it-
Mhm. Yeah, it's really not. It's not an either or. I think there was a time with SEO where you could just say, "Yeah, we're growing our business on SEO," or "Hey, there's enough." Or if you have a really good conversion funnel, like we're growing our business on ads, and you could just follow that simple playbook. I don't think it works anymore. I think it has to be all, um, because search engine optimization is either really competitive and also just not effective because AI is now answering users' queries. As a result, everybody's putting more money in ads, and there's more competition for everything these days, anyways. So it's just really competitive and difficult to make work. It's really, you have to be a bigger company with a bigger marketing
Mhm.
budget with better returns on your marketing spend to really compete in that world. So I don't think you can rely on those two things anymore. And you got
Yeah,
to do
and
those two
even
things
with the
plus
point now that you're mentioning
social
of
plus
SEO
cold. Like
too,
you have to
because I
do it all
saw,
in order
and I
to
was totally blanking on her name, to be honest.
grow.
The CEO of HubSpot, Yem, her, her. I saw
Yeah.
literally a post this morning about her comparing the
Yamini
difference
Rangan.
between
Yeah.
SEO and AEO, and I think also the post that you talked about that had the virality that went about
Uh-huh.
about Google was
Mhm.
dude, let me know how much you want
Yeah.
to go into
Oh,
that,
that one.
because
Yes. How Google is
I thought it
basically
was really
the biggest
insightful. So
thief on the planet right now.
if you want to unpack it a little bit first, so
Oh,
people
you
I
can go ahead,
guess know
whatever you
what
want.
we're talking about.
It's
Yeah.
out there. Yeah. Oh, sure.
Mhm.
So people get what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah. So um, I'll share. I shared our data in that post, and the data that I shared showed that
Mhm.
we we have an increasing amount of SERP impressions, search engine result page impressions, meaning that like if somebody does a search and we show up as one of the blue links, that's an impression. And so we've got more and more of those over the last 12 months, like to the point where it's 2 or 3x of what we had last year. However, the number of clicks that we get from that has dropped by more than 50%. And so what it means is, and I didn't actually figure all this out until actually a few smart people commented. But what it means is that
Yeah.
Google is using our content in their AI overviews, and they reference it. You see that little tiny link button, but no one ever clicks those, but those things because the answer is there. So they're using all of our content to deliver AI overviews. They are like citing us, but nobody clicks them. And then also, our content continues to rank really well below the AI overview. But once again, nobody's clicking that because they don't need to. And at first, it was just our blog traffic, and I like kind of expected that, right? It's like all of our blog content is very educational in nature, so it's and we're not the only ones that've written on that topic for the most part. So I expected those to be covered by AI overviews, but then we realized last month it even our templates, like we have free templates on our website where you can go and download them and use them at your dashboard templates. Is like, hey, say you want to track your sales funnel through Active Campaign and have a pretty
Yeah.
dashboard that does it. Like we provide one of those for free. You can't get that from an AI overview. You have to click our website and download it. Um, so like it's even there where they're actually cutting into our traffic. So my post basically says Google
Mm.
is a thief. They're basically taking our content, using it as their own. They cite us, but they're using it as their own to deliver the answer to the user. So all that work that we put into creating that content, like we get no value from it at this point, or little value, I should say. And a lot of that content, we even did primary research. We would do surveys. We'd ask 200 people a question. We'd share that data. So like they're referencing that data in that AI overviews, and like we're not getting even we're not really even getting a true impression, and we have no chance of converting them. So that was that post, and like I think it started with educational content, and of course we still get a lot of signups for our product, but the we don't control that interface anymore, right? We have to influence what the AI overviews say, or we have to influence what ChatGPT or one of the other LLMs say by creating content, and that game is so much harder. It's not just about publishing content to our website and optimizing it well, right? It's about getting our perspective, not just published on our website, but everywhere else. Getting other people to use us and cite us, because otherwise the LLMs won't get enough signals to include our answer or use our answer for their results, and so we won't get mentions at all, even for our product. So I think it's so as a result, at least in the short term, we've had to increase our ad budget quite significantly. Like we didn't have an ad. We didn't like a year ago. We barely spent any money on ads. We relied on SEO and our other channels to bring in signups. And this past 12 months, we've spent about $1 million. So
Back to
we're
the
like,
root of the
I'm $1
problem.
million in the hole. And guess where that money goes? To Google. So
That's
not only do they
crazy.
steal our
Yeah,
content,
and
I now have
now
to
that it's
pay them
competing
for
with
the privilege
ChatGPT,
of
competing
continuing to
with
get that lead.
Anthropic, all these platforms, I think it's not just like affecting you guys; it's affecting so many, even like the clients that we've worked with too. It's affecting them as well. So, uh, mm,
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, I sent that post out to like a few hundred people.
mm,
Um, and asked people like, are you? I wanted some validation that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't missing something, and I got zero responses saying, oh no, this hasn't affected us, and almost everyone has said, yes, I've seen this, especially I think in SaaS, in more tech forward companies where content marketing was a big important thing. I have had a few people come and say, "Oh,
yeah.
I didn't really notice
And
that," or "That's not that
at
big a
this
deal for
point, two
us."
things:
But
how long
for
do
the
you think
most
it's going
part,
to last, and what do you think like
everybody's been affected.
smaller and bigger companies can right now do other than spending ad budget? Mm,
Yeah. The
yeah,
question we've been asking is how low will it go? Like how much traffic will we
yeah.
lose? And again, we're not so obsessed over the traffic. It's more of the conversions, and our conversions have gone down, and we have to pay for them now. So I don't know. I wish I knew.
For sure.
But my like, I'm sure you use
Yeah.
AI to do searches and write and all that other stuff, and I do too. And so it's getting better and better. Like I'm editing a 150-page course right now using ChatGPT, and I'm probably
Yeah.
spending 10% of the time that I would if I had to do it manually. It's really hard to edit a long form piece of content, and they remember literally everything about it, and I can ask questions of it, and it tells me, and I can ask it for suggestions, and so I just don't think we're going back. I think people will increasingly use
Yeah.
AI to do research, to
Mhm.
write, to buy. Like
Mhm.
there's going to be more and more innovation there. So yeah. So what do you have to do differently? That's why I think social is so much more important now. Is because it's like
Mhm.
one of the last places where
Yeah.
you can directly reach your audience and connect with them as a human. Uh, but the way I look at it, again, it's multi channel, multi format, and so what we have is a process that literally starts with who do we want to target with this campaign, what will resonate, what will be interesting to them, how do we connect that to something that our product does, and then how do we get podcast guests that can sing that tune or speak to that topic, how do we run a research report to gather insight from the market, from that target market, about the problem that we're going to write about. How do we put a course together that covers it? Like that's the way we think of it. And then once we do that, it's like, all right, now we need to do outreach. So our SDR team is there doing outreach to those people and saying, hey, would you like to contribute to our research report? Or hey, would you like access to the data from a research report? Or hey, we're doing an event to discuss this data. Would you like to join us? Um, and then and then it's what's working. Publishing lots of social posts for every campaign. Take what's working and using ads to get that in front of the right people and more of the right people. And then of course measuring the impact of all of
Yeah.
that stuff. So I think it has to, and then incorporating partners too. Like not every business has this, but we have a partner program where we have independent companies out there that resell our product and offer services, implementation, and consulting services using our product. And so we're incorporating our partners into our content marketing processes as well, so that we're featuring them as part of that campaign and their expertise, but they're also talking about our product. So it goes hand in hand. So it's like, so marketing now, it's not about like having a person that owns that channel and a person that owns this channel. It's about creating campaigns that span all, not just like the marketing channels, but also the sales channels, and really coordinating it. So it requires significant amount more coordination and planning. It's less topics, more themes. I'm sorry, fewer themes, less topics, fewer
Yeah.
themes, and
And I
like
think that was just going to be
more
like
pieces of
the follow up
content
question
that
that I
kind
was
of
going
hit
to
that
ask. But you
theme
kind of answered it a
over and
bit.
over again
That I'm
across
like,
channels.
right now, especially with some clients, we see that we they're doing well on Facebook, and then they're like, let's up the Facebook ad or let's up the Google ads. But there's also a point of like diminishing return that we also see with them, and a lot of times, and I think Chris Walker talks about the
Yeah,
same thing, that just because somebody
totally.
sees you, just because it was a Google ad that made like the conversion or that's like attributed to the conversion, doesn't mean that that like is what made the conversion. It goes on with like a bunch of other variables too.
Mm-hmm. Uh, I constantly have to say this every week internally.
Yeah.
People are like, Google Ads is doing great. We should do more of it, and we did more of it. It didn't get us more return. Um, and yeah, so
Mhm.
um, yeah, I think there are certain channels that are good for capture and certain channels that are good for creation. Um,
Mm.
and um, Google Ads is great for demand capture, uh, meaning that the people already have to be looking for it. So if they're not looking for it, you can't use Google Ads to get them. You can use LinkedIn ads, you can use Facebook ads to reach those people, and of course you can do content marketing and networking and prospecting to reach those people. But Google Ads has that limit in terms of how much you can extract out of it. It also gets really expensive if you want to like outbid all your competitors on everything. So you have to measure down to the sale and see whether that's really worth the additional spend. But yeah, there's definitely a
Yeah.
law of diminishing
And maybe
returns
that's even like a
in those channels, especially ad channels. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna go
And
down
then
that route.
you mentioned I think you were about to mention self-reported attribution. That's really critical too. Uh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So you mentioned Chris Walker, who kind of I think coined or at least popularized this concept of self-reported attribution, where
Yeah.
when somebody gets to your website or gets on a sales call with you or both, you ask them, where did you first hear about us? And then they tell you that either in a free form field or over a conversation. And then you categorize that by the channels. You have to manually categorize. You use AI now to categorize those answers. Uh, and we do that. We've been doing that for more than a year. Uh, what it showed, if we didn't have that, I would have trouble justifying spending any time on LinkedIn, publishing anything to YouTube, collaborating with our partners on marketing, because those three things do not show up in our Google Analytics, Mixpanel, or HubSpot tracking. We have all three. Um, but it does all show up in our self-reported attribution. And when I look at our self-reported attribution, like ads and SEO are still very important. And if I combine them, they're still like the biggest chunk. But right after that is word of mouth or referrals from our partners and customers. And then what am I missing?
Whoa.
Then all of the AI search is huge now. It's like 15%, and like we wouldn't capture that either because people might hear about us on ChatGPT, but then type us in or Google us later. So that doesn't show up in the web analytics, but it does show up in self-reported. And then there's the big bucket. It's about
35%.
35% total coming from
That's
social,
crazy.
inclusive of YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook.
So even if like
Yeah,
let's even say that you want to put it
exactly.
in like very
So
massive
if I add it all
brushstrokes,
together, yeah, it's about 35%.
would you even say that like social could be like the demand creation,
Yeah,
the demand generation, and then paid ads could be capturing that demand?
yeah. Yeah, paid ads and search. Yes, exactly. Yeah, search is still relevant, I think, for bottom of the funnel, right? If somebody goes and types Databox, we might have to pay for that click. It's
Yeah.
still cheap, or it's cheap,
And
but like those kind of things are going to come. We're going to get through organic search. Yeah, still. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think LLMs and like you don't have as much control, but they still to some degree are gonna like take the demand creation part away from search engines, right? Search engines used to be both, I think, where somebody could be exploring a topic and find you. But since you can't do that with educational content as much, I think that kind of goes away. But LLMs, people will still explore for like, what are the products I should use, or how do I solve this problem? And they might find your product as your service as a solution. So I still think there's some level of demand creation from
yeah.
search, but social is you definitely have more control
And
over
at the
demand creation
moment,
on social because you can
even to
target
wrap it up
people,
with the
connect with people,
last two questions to keep you
get
on
word of
time.
mouth to happen, etc.
For the first one, um, right now, at least how I see it, correct me if I'm wrong with this, I don't
Okay.
see a lot of CEOs, especially like software companies, B2B software companies,
Yep.
using LinkedIn. And I don't know if, first off, if I'm even right with that. And second off, if people or CEOs know how to use it
Mm-hmm.
and know how to justify it as an expense of time and money.
Yeah. Yeah, we're probably the minority, I guess, of SaaS CEOs that do it, or especially the minority of CEOs that do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would agree with you. There's not many of us that do it consistently. Like even Yamini does it fairly consistently,
She's
but it's
never
probably like
responded to a
once a
single
week,
one of
right?
my
She's not
comments.
very, and that she doesn't engage much with the comments.
Makes
I don't
sense.
knock. She's managing. I don't knock her for it either. So because she's managing a multi-billion-dollar business, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, like there's a few of us that do it regularly. Adam Robinson is one that I think does an
Mm.
amazing job. I probably put him at the top of the list. Pat Laha runs Winter and founded Conversion XL. He's really good. He doesn't do it as much, but yeah, there's a few of us that are consistent with it. As far as justifying the time, like I have a great team. I'm not engaged in the day-to-day execution of our business. I think a lot of CEOs get stuck there. But the founder of the
Mm.
business is very active in the business, and he runs a good portion of the company. He's very behind the scenes, doesn't want to be public. And then I have, a leadership team that manages the day to day. So I don't need to be too involved in that stuff. We also have really tight processes around how we manage and innovate. So I don't need to like do a lot of one-off stuff. I can basically show up to meetings and do make decisions if necessary, or bless things, or help prioritize things. So I have a pretty good setup where I am able to spend this time, and I kind of see as my job to both stay in touch with the market, understand what the market needs, what customers want, where the world's going, and so I need that time to learn, read, and write, to
Yeah.
do that. And so if I can do that publicly and get feedback right away, I think it's even more powerful. Um, and then obviously it helps with our own marketing. So that's kind of what keeps me going, because I wish we were going faster, and and I look at it and
Right.
like,
You think that you
like
get a
if I
lot
cut
of
this out, this
also
would
insights
hamper our
from marketing
ability
coming
to keep
specifically
growing.
from
So
LinkedIn,
that's what I do.
or did they come from multiple platforms?
I don't do much
Mm-hmm.
else these days on other platforms. So yeah, I'll write a lot about like things we're planning to do, or things we did, and I'll get feedback on it that way through LinkedIn. I'll literally ask for feedback. I'm like, hey, we're thinking of doing this. Would you use it? Or, hey, this is a problem we see. This is our solution. What do you think? We're
Yeah.
looking for people who are doing X, Y, and Z that would be willing to talk to us, and I'll funnel that over to product manager. So yeah, definitely always using the platform
Mm-hmm.
for feedback. And I think it's almost like pre-promotion too, right? I'm sharing what we're working on, the way we think, and when you ask people questions or ask for feedback, they tend to give it, which helps with the comments, which helps visibility of
Perfect.
the post. So
So the
there's a
last
lot of
thing
benefits to asking
to
for
make sure to
asking
that I wrap it
questions
up on time,
and
because I
asking
have
for feedback.
quite a few questions. Maybe there'll be a part two down the line. Yeah. No. No. No worries. Well, um, because
I can go a little longer if
the
you
other
want. I'm
question that I
sorry for
had
being
regarding
late.
that too was that you're pretty active, like in the DMs. You respond to me like pretty quickly, and you're also, I think one time you like asked me for feedback on the post, and I'm like, damn, this is feel like beyond my pay grade
Yep,
to respond to this, but I'm like, let me try. Um, so I
you're qualified.
how active also do you think, um,
You
with
did
regards
well.
in terms of like the posting of of CEOs or of anybody on LinkedIn versus what happens behind the scenes in terms of like the DMs and actually interacting and getting on
Yeah.
calls?
Mhm.
Yeah, where the magic happens.
Oh, what's like ratio almost of activity?
Hmm.
Yeah, I try to stick to a publishing schedule of like once a day. Occasionally, I'll do more, and there are days that I just don't do it. But I try to stick to once a day, um, and I try to do it in the morning. I'll usually have a free hour in the morning at some point, and although I like plan out what I'm going to post, I literally log in and I use authored up. I'll log into authored up and like clear the time, schedule time, and press publish. So I'm live when I'm on LinkedIn when I publish it. And so those first few comments I try to engage with right away.
Hmm.
Um, Oftentimes, like I'll publish one and then I'll go edit a few so that
Mm.
I'm like in the mode of that. But I'll pay attention to the comments that are coming in. I'll literally like click it once in a while and see what's there. And then if I have a post that is going strong, I'll check in a few times a day and look at the comments and respond. It doesn't take me that long. I'm kind of doing it in between meetings or other tasks. So and it's almost like a mental break for me to do it versus something else that's harder to do. So yeah, no, I do think that's important. I go the internal of the DMing goes in fits and spurts. Sometimes I'll start conversations as direct messages, like if somebody comments or likes or whatever, I'll connect with them and ask them a question or ask them to contribute to something we're working on, like a research report. But there
Yeah.
are times when there'll be weeks when I don't do that, because I'm just overloaded with other stuff to do. So if I could spend more time on that, I know that I would be able to create demand because I can turn conversations into
Yeah.
opportunities.
Because
But
I mean that was my biggest issue
I don't
with
always
starting
have
off
the
on
time
LinkedIn,
to do that.
that like I've grown
Uh,
platforms already on
so
Instagram
yeah.
and Facebook, and I'm like, oh, it's just going to be about like posting, going viral, getting one post to go viral.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't notice, and maybe you noticed this way before I did, but that LinkedIn seems to be like the connection
Yeah.
platform, and it seems to advocate more for connecting with people. And I think Apollo got booted.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's very different. Yeah, you've done really well on Instagram and Facebook, but I think it's a totally different
Mhm.
playbook. This is my the way I
Yeah.
look at it, and I think the reason why I'm decent at it is because I look at it as a sales thing as opposed to a
Mhm.
marketing thing. And like you have to be able to position value and write well and all that, like a marketer normally was, and most salespeople can't. But but it's much more about like the engagement and the conversations that you can start. And it's important for both reach of the content as well as to turn the reach into revenue in
Mhm.
some way at some future date, because the reach of the content
Mhm.
is dependent on the engagement that it gets. uh, uh, and
Mhm.
the engagement happens mostly because of comments. Because if you look at your feed,
Yeah.
you'll see a lot of your follower or the people you follow. You see their comments on other people's threads, so that's how things kind of go viral on LinkedIn. Whereas it's different, I think, say on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm not a very good user of either of those, but
Oh yeah.
where like it's likes and other things and dwell time or listen time or whatever, like those things probably factor into the
Yeah, and that was
virality a
something
lot
that I
more
missed because I was always
than
like, vanity
anything else, because
metrics.
it's mostly
Vanity
visual
metrics are
stuff as
vanity
opposed
metrics
to good
sometimes
stuff.
for a reason, because it like we would have one post, like my highest performing post
Yeah,
pales in
right.
comparison to yours, but it got like 16,000 impressions, and it was good, um, but we weren't getting even like the inbound leads that we were looking
Okay.
for. And a lot
Yeah.
of times, like it doesn't necessarily, just because you're getting a lot amount of likes doesn't necessarily mean that it's a lot of conversions or a lot
Okay.
of revenue coming in.
No, I don't think virality on LinkedIn helps much with conversions directly. The way I look at
Mm,
virality is on LinkedIn is
yeah.
it's like helps grow followers and helps nurture followers, but I don't think it drives conversions directly. I try to balance types of posts based on like stages of the funnel in some ways, where it's like I'll try to write some of those posts that I think will go viral. Um, but I'm not looking for it to necessarily convert for me. But then I'll write posts that are very much
Yeah.
designed to like convert, or at least really position the value of our product. Like I'll publish posts that are like a recap of a case study that we did. So that's not going to go viral most likely. But if it gets 10 people that watch it through and three of those people
Yeah.
go to
And
Google and
even
go
also
to our
catering
website,
to
like
to the
that's
method
good,
of
right? So I try to balance the
outbound
two
that
things.
you kind of mentioned. I know
Um,
I'm jumping back to like the beginning of the conversation, but just something that you mentioned about doing outbound a little bit better, probably than sending a
sure.
templated
Yeah.
message that you sent to the same person. uh, that I think also
Mm-hmm.
I don't see like the human getting out of the connection, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to AI, because I've done my fair share of outbound for sure, but I also know how it's like to like annoy somebody on outbound and somebody wanting to like block you at one point. Uh,
Okay.
so with this, even with like how we're using AI, and again from your feedback
Right.
with this, we now what we've seen converts very well is that like I'm getting information from like people who are my ideal clients, and I'm using AI to get that kind of information. But but I'm never like sending some kind of templated copy and paste emails.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
even
Yeah.
what I've found works very well is like literally just me filming myself and sending it as a video DM
Yeah.
of 5 outbounds that were like researched very very well, and them actually getting to know me a bit better. And
Okay.
I think that that also goes into the aspect of like me believing that like outbound was dead for a
Okay.
period of time, but also just thinking that maybe just like very low bar, like you said, the beginning of HubSpot when email marketing was just a thing.
Yeah.
That's the kind of outbound right now that's going to be dead, and just the barrier of entry has gotten a little bit higher.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
If someone's basically buying lists and sending the same message out to thousands of people, it's already dead. Like it just doesn't work. So people are still doing it because they get like 0.05% response rate, and that's maybe enough for them to keep justifying. And maybe they don't have any other options or don't know what the other options are. But yeah, no, I look at
Mm-hmm.
I don't look at like prospecting on LinkedIn as like cold. I look at it as networking. Like
Yeah.
because I'm not trying to sell things. I think the mistake that a lot of people make with outbound is that they pitch right away. They're literally pitching, right? Whereas what you did is a form of what I do. Where you reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'd love to have you on my podcast." Now I know not everybody has a podcast, and you can't have everybody on your podcast, but we do something similar where if somebody has some level of expertise in
Yeah.
a certain area, we just like ask them, are you doing anything with this? And would you be willing to contribute to some research that we're doing? And it's a low lift for them and it's a low lift for us. But we established that connection. Like somebody today, who read one of my posts, she didn't want to leave a comment, but she DM'd me. I actually connected with her and she DM'd me saying, "Hey, like I'm having a similar problem. Here's how it's working for us." And I responded back. So like those genuine connections over an interest or a topic or a challenge is networking. It's not selling. Now, if I happen to get her into my funnel and at some point she sees our product, like, or maybe she, I ask her straight up at some point through a conversation, like, how do you do this? And to see if there's a need
Yeah.
for our
Yeah.
service.
And I'm wondering if that's what it's going to
That's
take now
selling, but I
for
think I look
the
at
coming
like
years
social networking as
rather than.
networking. I think so. I like. Do we really need people
Yeah.
cold pitching us
Yeah.
at this point? Like we have all the information in the world at our fingertips, right? So like we don't need people to pitch us cold. Um, yeah, and like it's too easy for people to pitch us cold to the point where it's too much. Like why would I ever sit there and prioritize cleaning out my inbox of unsolicited pitches versus going to ChatGPT or LinkedIn and researching on ChatGPT or reading on LinkedIn to learn something new. Like
Yeah.
I'm
And
not
that's
gonna. I
the
don't
thing that
trust
you
those
just said, that
people
everybody I
anywhere
think has
near
the
as
ability
much as
now
I
to
trust
just
the
do their
web.
own
Right?
research
What's on the
before
web?
they even speak to the first SDR. That um, the deal is already won or lost sometimes before.
Right. Yeah. But if you act like a human and you treat me like a human, I'm gonna talk to people, and not everyone's maybe as extroverted as I am, but I'm not gonna be a dick to you if you come to me and say, "Hey, you want to
Yeah.
be on my podcast?" or "Hey, I'm doing some research. Could you help me out?" Like if I have time, I'm gonna respond to that, right? Whereas if you just pitch me like, "Hey, we have this amazing solution. What are you using right now for this? And do you have a problem?" And like, I guess you don't have a problem, jerk. Like I'm
A lot of
going away
negative
now, and
energy over
then
there
a
in the
month later they're
DMs.
back, right? Like I don't need that
But
in my life.
but yeah,
It
no, I
doesn't
have
help.
one guy who's like in my DMs right now, and he's like, I
Yeah,
told him I was like I wasn't
right.
interested, and I don't even think he read the "I'm not interested" part because, and it was like he just pitched me like 2 weeks later. It's like, have you heard of this new solution? I'm like, wow, I know everyone has to sell to eat, but
Yeah,
like, Jesus. Um,
yeah, yeah. No, it's inappropriate.
so I mean, that's what I'm
It
learning.
would be
I'm
inappropriate
also
in
from
any
a
other
software
setting,
development
and
background,
so
so
it's
I
inappropriate
had
in
to
a
learn
business
this
setting.
stuff
Right?
too. I've been through it, so I'm not like on my high horse here, uh, but
Okay.
so the last question that I have to wrap the session up, and thank you so much for being overtime with
Yeah.
me, is um, if you had advice. I ask this to everybody who comes on the live streams. If you have advice,
Okay.
personally, professionally, or both, for your 25-year-old self, what piece of advice would that be?
Mm. Oh wow,
Mm,
this is a tricky one. I was a very headstrong person. Um, had my own ambitions and goals, and kind of put my head down and like went through walls, drove through people to get to there. Yeah, not in any violent way, but I wish I was a little more, and I've always been curious, but kind of for my own purposes. I wish I was a little more
mm,
um, like
yeah.
open and seeked out advice from people. I wish I seeked out advice from people more. Yeah, yeah. I still probably don't do it enough, but yeah. No, I wish. I think I would have prevented a lot of
Yeah.
challenges in my career if I were a little more, little less
This
headstrong, a
is
little more
also good advice for your son too.
uh,
He's like six,
looking for
18, right?
guidance,
18,
mentorship.
so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's very coachable too. Like, he's different than I am. He's more like his mother. He's calm and
No, it's good because I think I sent him
curious
a
and
message too, being
seeks
like,
out advice. Yeah,
hi, yeah, yeah, hi. I was
he
in
didn't
contact with
inherit
your
this
dad,
from me.
and because he added me, he sent me a message. So, yeah, I'm
Oh,
glad
you
to
did?
be
That's
in his
cool.
LinkedIn
Yeah.
connection now. The young entrepreneurs,
Oh, you did.
but awesome. Well, I mean, thanks so much, Peter, for being
Okay,
on the
that's
live
cool.
stream. And I mean, you're a big
Yes.
name already on LinkedIn, but like for the 1% of people who don't know you,
Yeah.
where can they find you? Well,
Yeah, my name is Peter Caputa. I'm the fourth. So my father's still alive. He's not on LinkedIn. My son, as you just mentioned, is on LinkedIn. He's the fifth. So I have an IV next to my name. He has a V. But yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn. I try to be responsive to people on LinkedIn. So that's the best place. If anyone wants
perfect.
to
Well,
talk to
thanks
my
so much,
team
Peter,
who
for
would be
being
more
on, and
responsive than
looking
I,
forward to definitely
it's
doing a part
Databox,
two down the line.
databox.com.
I'll see you in the comments section.
Cool. Thanks, Jordan. I
Cheers.
figured it'd be fun to talk to you, and it was. So thank you. All right. Yep. Cheers.